Welcome to Tiny Hands Big Dreams. Here with a breaking news announcement. I don't know, there's news. Stuff's going on.
Ecuadorian news.
Ecuadorian news, we thought we'd bring it to you. If you're looking to move here, you live here, things.
We're just interested.
It's really easy as a person living somewhere else in a language that isn't your primary one to just sort of not pay attention to all the news and let it all drift by. Politics, things, something like we could just literally like ostrich ourselves so hard and blissfully ignore the world. But we think it's important to try to keep up. There has been two fairly major incidents with oil pipeline failures of some nature. The first one was the Esmeraldas.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the Esmeraldas one was crude oil coming out of the big oil field in the Amazon. Potentially a landslide situation. And
Yeah.
how much was it?
How much was what?
How many barrels they estimated?
The official figures say 3,800.
3,800 barrels, which it seems like a pretty small number to me for a pipeline full fail. But you know, they know
the official numbers.
They know their things. But crude oil dumps into the river, and here's where it gets worse. Contaminates the river and heads out to the coast to contaminate fisheries and the coast. 500,000 people without drinking water.
For over a week. They say it will be back, I think, today-ish, tomorrow.
At what quality?
Today being March 23rd.
Yeah.
This happened on the 13th. So I guess it's actually been well over a week.
That being said, like all of the entire ecosystem, the fish in the water, the mammals that have to try to get to the river to drink.
So here's just a quote, because I think if you don't know the area, which I don't know, this is in the northern mid part of the country.
Sure.
We don't know it real well. The environmental consequences are considerable. The spill reached land areas, bodies of water, mangrove areas, which are part of a wildlife refuge, and reached the sea, affecting some 80 kilometers of sensitive ecosystems. The impact is vast and complex. In these type of events, the key is to act quickly and accurately, so someone says.
Yeah. The problem with crude oil is it's nasty, sticky, thick stuff. It's crude. It's gooey. It sticks to everything. It takes so long to break down in the environment.
And we were talking about how, any oil spill is damaging to the ecosystem. But if you think about it out in the ocean, there's not that much, relatively speaking, that is affected on the surface of the ocean compared to an entire river. If you think about, the river is not just the fish, the river is not just the birds, you've also got everything that eats those things. You have everything that relies on that water to drink. All the creatures of that area are wildly affected. This is a long-term kind of environmental catastrophe.
There is.
Also, I saw this one picture, we'll put it up if I can find it, of a little girl standing on what looks like, like a rocky river beach, because the water has gone down, and the river water has gone down and left just this film of nasty crude oil.
Stuck to everything. Which
is even harder to clean up. If it's on the top of ocean, you can clean it up much easier than out of riverbed. I don't know how they expect to clean up.
Once it gets stuck to a rock, it doesn't really come off the rock.
You're going to try to wash all the rocks off. Like, realistically, it just is.
Calling a tactical Dawn dish soap strike.
For the plants and the rocks and oh my gosh.
So that happened.
Now, the other thing that is important, just with where this is and the way the communities work. This is a community, an area where fishing is like number one for a lot of people. There are people there that I am sure have generations and generations have relied on fishing for their livelihood. There's no more. It's just no more. This is where the Esmeraldas River goes to the ocean at Esmeraldas. Well, that's just destroyed now for
time
years.
and until it flushes out, until life will return eventually.
I don't know how those people that rely on the river, I don't know what they're gonna do.
But they're
It's really bad.
They may lose a year of like fishing potential or more.
So it's not only the
It's catastrophic for those people.
Yeah, not only the environmental aspect, but also just the social,
socioeconomic.
Yes. Oh, look at you.
Big word.
Socioeconomic.
All right.
Now, do we want to get into the potential sabotage of that? It's fun.
Here's where it gets weird. There have been allegations that potentially it was sabotage.
Yes.
At the only exposed piece of pipeline that seemed to exist.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't just alleged by like some random person. It was the government said it could be sabotage.
Could be.
Not that it was, not that it wasn't, but it could be.
Could be. And then there was an alleged opening of a.
It was a Ecuador employee allegedly improperly opened a containment dam, which made the whole thing vastly worse.
Which uncontained.
Why would you uncontain the thing that you want to contain?
Now, there was also alleged threats of a similar thing could happen.
Yes.
Warning kind of thing to the Quito area's water, drinking water watershed.
Yeah, basically, it would if that pipeline failed in some way, it would affect all of Quito's.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of like the mob boss walking down the street with the henchman going, "Be a darn shame if fire happened to that store right there, wouldn't it? Maybe you should pay us."
Now, this is all alleged.
It's alleged.
It could totally just be all accident, landslide related.
There's been a lot of landslides, no doubt.
Totally fair. Now that there's been multiple incidences, I start questioning.
And warnings and things, and in that certain area. And it's election season, and the issue of the crude oil thing, something, and the environmental stuff is all a big part.
There's a big oil field that is a.
One candidate is for, one is sort of like against, like
how they're managing.
This plays into politics to potentially sway what is otherwise looking like a very close election.
So it seems rather coincidental in timing. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah. So then there was one today in the Napo province, which is northern
Shushu-Findi.
Amazon. It's not the province. I was going to say that. The Shushu-Findi, Quito.
Shushu-Findi.
Are you done?
It's just a fun word to say. I don't know what language that's from.
I'm not sure.
Whether it's like a Chinese project or that's like a local dialect.
The Shushu-Findi Quito pipeline.
Yes.
Which luckily is not crude oil, so it's less bad. But it's still,
right. It sends refined things to terminals, I guess on the coast.
Petroleum products.
Yeah, and then they supply the northern part of Ecuador. So there could be a short interruption.
I mean, this happened this morning on the 23rd, so we don't have a lot more information yet.
But we now have.
Now, there was
in
also
close proximity, like a second pipeline. Huh.
What's important about the location of that is that it could affect the country's biggest hydro plant. Now, again, luckily it's not crude oil because that would be way worse.
The crude oil, they said that the export of the crude oil was like 30% of the GDP of the country, was that one pipeline. So that is not like a small thing. So they immediately repaired the pipe. They got that back together because it's just huge for the country, percentage-wise. And now this one, they say, personally, I don't think it would affect the hydroelectric dam. They're refined products, refined diesel, gas, liquefied natural gas will just gas off. These will go right through a hydroelectric plant without. Now, crude oil comes downstream. You have to shut off your intakes and protect your equipment, or you're in for some bad time. But the diesel fuel, while it's a terrible mess and it's massive contamination,
it shouldn't affect the hydro.
They're all steel metal parts thing. Like it should go through.
Now, environmentally, it's not going to be great. No, depending on where that is. And again, I don't know the exact location. We might be able to figure it out and put a map up. I don't know. It will probably all head towards the Amazon, though, is my guess. Just by, if it's the Napo region, depending on where it falls, it is probably going to head through the Amazon.
Yeah.
Which would be rather unfortunate.
It would be unfortunate.
The Amazon does not need more.
But
struggles.
As we get into, like I said, if we have potential sabotage, if, we have election season, there's a lot of ifs here. If I get that mosquito. Or it's more sinister and there's potentially more coming up. You never know. But it's significant enough that we thought we'd bring it to you. Breaking news.
Well, it's something that, I think should have been far bigger international news.
If you
half
thought,
a million people without water.
If you thought the Esmeraldas area was a lovely place to vacation in, maybe you have plans booked in a lovely Airbnb on the coast.
That might be, I don't know. Doesn't seem as great.
The shrimp may taste funny.
There are shortages that are going to happen because of this. It may not affect the whole country, but it will happen. There's a lot of fishing out of that area. And then you get into, with this newest one, if there's going to be shortages of, I don't know, gas, anything, in the northern part of the country. On top of all of the already shortages happening because of all the landslides and roads that have disappeared.
Yep.
It's a little bit of a mess. That's it.
So that was today's topic. Yeah. I hope this has kept you updated on things going on in Ecuador. On the roads, I will say that while the roads are terrible and there's, we've put it up before. Can we put it up again? The official road closure website?
Yeah, of course.
Definitely worth bookmarking if you don't have it. The vendors that we have at our local market in Nyanzaza that are on the coast or up in the high country, they're still making it there.
They're still making it.
And we had a guy last week came down from Colombia selling mangoes and avocado. He was there again this week.
Yeah.
So people are still able to transit.
It's just
at some level of difficulty.
Commercial trucks, because a lot of the roads are closed to large, heavy vehicles. So I think people can, but when you're talking about actually transporting goods across the country, that's slowed down a bit.
So there's that. Okay.
All right.
Hope it helps. Subscribe, because we'll continue to do important updates as they happen. We'll see you for the next one.